Sunday, my gorgeous lot. I hope you're all doing good. So as promised, I am doing a live today, and I asked you guys to drop your questions in the comments box of my stories or in my post, and I would answer them. I've got my eyelashes sticking together. It's so annoying. Oh, there we go. Got it. But I got one question from Maggie Lewis 490. So shout out to Maggie Lewis. Thank you for asking this question. And I thought it is such a meaty question that my whole life will just cover this. Okay, so her question was, what's the difference between retinol, retinol, retinoids? Okay, so I'm going to answer this for you. I've made some notes because there is so much to talk about. I don't want to miss anything. So to kick things off, let's talk about the key players of retinoids. So the term retinoids is a collective term for all of the retinol, prescription retinol, okay? Now, there are retinol, there is encapsulated retinol, there is retinol, and then there's prescription retinoids. So first of all, I'm going to have to get a bit sciencey to explain the differences between all four. So just stay with me, okay? So step one, you would put a retinol on the skin. And then when the retinol is applied to the skin, it reacts with enzymes in the skin and turns into retinaldehyde, which is otherwise known as retinol, okay? And then it has to react again from retinol to a retinoic acid. And when it's a retinoic acid, that's when it starts to get to work. Okay, so the conversion relies on natural enzymes that we have in our body, in our skin. And so the efficacy of it and the speed of conversion can vary from person to person. Okay, so that's why you might see that one person has better results or quicker results using any type of form of retinoid because they've got a different sort of makeup of enzyme which could speed up the process or could slow it down. Okay, so when it has turned to retinoic acid, it does the following. It speeds up the cell turnover. So what that means is we've got lots of layers of the skin. You've got your dead skin cells on the surface, and they're getting newer and newer and newer, and you've got your baby skin cells right deep down in the dermis. Okay, and what happens is when the dead skin cells fall off, a bit like those 2-penny machines at the pier that you used to have, that you'd have them, that arm sort of pushing the 2p's off, and you pop a 2p and it slots down and then pushes the 2p's off. Imagine that those pennies at the end are your dead skin cells. And guys, by the way, if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments box and I'll answer them at the end, or if you're watching this on the replay, I will come back to you in the comments. So when those dead skin cells fall off, that's when we produce new skin cells. So as we get older, the dead skin cells just take longer to fall away. The glue that holds onto them gets a bit stuck. So we're producing less new skin cells as we get older, and therefore producing less collagen. So from the age of 21, we produce 2% less collagen every single day. And collagen is like the scaffolding of our skin. It's what keeps it firm, keeps it supple, keeps it young. So one of the things that retinoic acid will do is quicken up that skin cell turnover for us. And in turn, that helps with collagen production. And it can also help regulate pigmentation. So pigmentation has melanin that is sat in the dead skin cells, and that's when you get those darker patches on the skin. So by quickening up that skin cell turnover and shedding those dead skin cells, you're getting rid of the extra melanin that is sat in those dead skin cells. So now that you sort of understand a bit of the science behind it, let's now talk about the different types of retinoid. Okay, so let's go back to like our stage one. So that is the retinol. Retinol is your stage one. So think of it as like the gentle gateway to your anti-aging of retinoids. So it can make the skin sensitive. It can cause irritation. All of them can, but it's the most gentle form. Okay, it can dry out the skin as well, and if you're particularly sensitive, you may not be able to use any type of retinol, any type of retinoid. But this takes slightly longer to work, because if you imagine it is a retinol, you have to apply it to the skin, it will then convert into retinol and then into retinoic acid, and then it starts to work. Okay, then you've got encapsulated retinol. Now, encapsulated retinol means it's kind of encased in a sheath. So when you apply it to the skin, as it's traveling deeper into the layers of the skin, it will start to break down and allow the retinol into the skin. Now, what this means is that it has a controlled release. So it's slower, so it doesn't give you those irritating effects that retinol is known to give you. You won't get any of the dryness, you won't get any of the irritation or the redness or the flakiness of the skin. And it's got increased stability. So it doesn't make your skin photosensitive, and it's not sensitive to the daylight. And then it's got targeted delivery. So it can go deeper into the layers of the skin than normal retinol, where it can be most effective. So there are those two. You've got retinol and then encapsulated retinol. So it will be more effective and give you less irritating results. And then moving on, we've got retinol, which is spelt the same as retinol, but with an A, not an O. So retinol. So this is short for retinaldehyde. Okay, so this is like the phase 2. So it has already done the conversion. When you're putting that serum on the skin, the retinol serum on the skin, it doesn't need to do the conversion from retinol to retinol. It's already there. So all it's got to do is convert to retinoic acid. So that means it will deliver results quicker because it's got one less stage to have to do, but it has more irritating effects. Okay, so if someone's looking for faster results and is not new to using retinol, then retinol would be a good next step to upgrade your anti-aging routine. But if you're a first timer, don't go straight in at retinol. It will be too harsh for your skin. And certainly if you've got skin conditions or sensitive skin, then retinol is where you want to stick, or in fact, encapsulated retinol is where you want to stick. And then we're moving on to prescription retinoids. So that is the next phase. So prescription retinoids are things like tretinoin. You have to get it over the counter. You have to get it as a prescription, whereas everything else can be over the counter. And these are pure retinoic acid. So this is the final step of that sciencey bit that I taught you, the 3 phases of completion. So it means that the retinoic acid is going straight onto your skin. You are not having to convert anything. It can just start getting to work. So this is the most effective, but it is a lot more harsh on the skin. So again, if you've got sensitive skin, you never want to touch these. If you're not used to retinol and you've never used retinol before, never go into prescription retinoid straight away. It's just far too much for the skin. Okay, so now let's move on to the question that everyone has about percentages. So everyone says, oh, what percentage should I use? And I've actually written down the percentages just so I don't get them wrong. So you've got low to high concentrations. So 0.01 to 0.03 are considered lower concentrations. So these are great ideal for beginners or for those with sensitive skin. 0.05 to 0.3% is considered a moderate, okay? 0.5% to 1% is considered a high concentration for retinol. And these you need to work your way up, okay? You should never use anything that is more than 1%. It's going to be too much, too harsh for the skin. But in saying that about percentages, it's not all about percentages. Like with anything in skincare, it is about the quality of the ingredient, how it's been formulated, the vehicle that it's with, what ingredients it's been mixed with. So don't just get fixated on, I'm using a 0.05 retinol. You need to think about, what is it in? Is it in a serum? Is it in a cream? Is it in a gel? Okay, so if someone's got super oily skin, they might want to use it in a gel because that will help to minimize the oil production as well. I would never ever want to use it in a cream because you can penetrate deeper into the skin if you're using it in a serum, okay? But if you get irritated using retinol or retinoids, put a little bit of moisturizer on before you apply your retinoid, because that will dampen down the irritating effects, okay? And then thinking about the combination of the formulation. So things like, if they are formulated with things like niacinamide or vitamin C, then, or any antioxidant, for example, they can be more effective than if they weren't. However, this is a massive caveat. They have to be formulated with them. You can't apply your own vitamin C serum before your retinoid, because actually vitamin C, unless formulated specifically to go with retinol, will counteract retinol. So you could be applying, if you applied your own vitamin C serum and then got a separate retinol and put it on top, they're cancelling each other out and they're going to clash and quite possibly cause irritation to the skin. So it's only if the brand has formulated them together that you can apply them together, okay? So let's look at some things on what you should do and also what you shouldn't do with retinoids. So start slowly. So unless you are starting with an encapsulated retinol, if any other type of retinoid, you need to introduce this slowly. So like for the first week, you'll apply it twice in the week and separate days, like separate the days in the week. And then you build up the frequency week on week until you're using it like 5 days a week. The thing with retinoids is that they need consistency. It's a bit like your house plant. If you water it every few days consistently, it's going to thrive. But if you go on holiday for 3 weeks and leave it, you're going to come back to it completely wilted and maybe dead. And that's exactly the same with retinoids, because they need to go deep down into the layers of the skin and feed those baby skin cells. So you need to be building up the frequency. If you're just using retinoids a couple of times a week, standard, you're not going to see results, okay? Apply it at night. So it can make your skin more sensitive to the sunlight. So apply it at night in your evening routine. And then always ensure you're using an SPF 30 minimum the next day. Okay, you should be anyway, but especially if you're using retinol, because it will make your skin more sensitive to the sun. Moisturize well. So like I said, if you tend to get dried out with your retinoids, or if you get slightly irritated, use a calming moisturizer underneath your retinoid and then put your retinoid on top and then use a moisturizer on top of that. And that is called sandwiching. So you're sandwiching the retinoid in between your moisturizer, and that will dampen down the irritating effects and keep your skin nice and hydrated. If you've never used anything before like this, then certainly patch test it, and patch test it on the neck, because the neck tends to be a little bit more sensitive than the skin, and if it's okay for the neck, should be fine on the skin. Combine wisely. Okay, so pair retinol with ingredients that support the skin barrier, which is the top layer of the skin. So think of things that are calming, soothing, hydrating. So if you're going to put a serum on underneath your retinol, then use something like a hyaluronic acid serum, which is great for hydration and will support the hydration levels. Ceramides will as well. And niacinamide is a really, really good ingredient to layer with retinol. Now, what shouldn't you combine with retinol? And this list is not exhaustive and extensive. There will be other things, but the most common problems that people have is things like exfoliating acids, like glycolic or salicylic acid. If you were to apply that and then apply your retinol, you are going to irritate the skin no end. You get redness, you could get some skin barrier damage. So stay away from that. Also, benzoyl peroxide, way too harsh to be combining with a retinoid. And then things that are, things like chemical peels as well. A chemical peel and then using a retinol or a retinoid is just going to hurt the skin and irritate it and make it really angry. And then, you know, vitamin C will clash with it unless it has been formulated inside by the brand with the retinol. Don't rush the process. So avoid the temptation to increase that frequency sooner, because your skin needs time to get used to a retinoid. So 1 week you would start off using it 2 times in the week. The next week you'd increase it to 3 times in the week. Don't just suddenly go into using it every day, and don't then stop and start. So if you're going to skin cycle, which means you use retinol for like 4 days a week and then give yourself a 3-day break, stick to that cycle. Don't change it up too much. Next, don't ignore irritation. Okay, so if you experience severe irritation, don't just power on through. Now, retinoids can cause purging. So purging is where your skin is flushing out all the dirt, and I was going to say CRAP, all the dirt, all the grime, all the bacteria that's stuck in the deeper layers of the skin. So purging is actually a good sign, although people don't want to be breaking out. But after a 6-week cycle maximum, it would calm down. And it's just the detoxing of your skin. It can cause that. But if it goes on for longer than 6 weeks, or if it intensifies, then it's probably actually a reaction to the skin. If anyone's got any questions, drop them in the comments box. I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you for the love heart. So, common side effects that you can be aware of and just note, but you don't have to freak out about and stop, are dry skin, a bit of flaking on the skin. You could get some redness. You could get some increased blemish activity. So if you get any of those, just keep an eye on them. Don't freak out. They are normal. If you want to minimize your drying effects, add more moisturizer before your retinoid. But if it starts to get significantly red, if it starts to sting, if it starts to feel uncomfortable, then you're either using too high a concentration, you're either using it too frequently, or you are using ingredients that clash, okay? And if anyone has got any of that going on, you can message me privately with your concerns and I will help you. All of my advice is completely free, okay? So don't ignore that irritation. Don't use expired products, please. People think, oh yeah, it's out of date, it's fine, I'll just use it up. No. The integrity of the product will have broken down and it can give you severe skin barrier damage. And once you've got skin barrier damage, you are going to need to take about 3 or 4 months repairing that damage with a really specific protocol. So please, I know if you spent money on it and you look at it and it's out of date, chuck it away. Don't neglect your neck. Okay, so these areas are prone to signs of aging, but they can be more sensitive. So if you choose to apply retinoids here, do so less frequently, okay, and watch for any signs of irritation. So that is my breakdown on retinol, encapsulated retinol, and prescription retinoids. So if you found this useful, please give me a love heart if you're watching this back. If you are catching it up on the replay, just drop me any of your comments, any of your questions. I'll be so happy to help. And if you want any product recommendations I obviously can't recommend prescription retinoids, but if you want any suggestions for retinol, encapsulated retinol, or retinol, I can certainly send you some recommendations that I know work and do well with the skin. So I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday, and also just wanted to say a massive thank you to Maggie Lewis 490 for asking the question. I'm going to drop in my stories a questions box in a minute. So if any of you have got any skin concerns or any questions or want me to answer anything in a live like this, just drop it in the questions box and I will get around to it. Speak to you later.